Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to my, I guess, official first video. Maybe that's what this is. I should know. Eventually, I'll get this down about intros and all that. Hi, my name is Monique. If you are new to my page and you don't really know me, I am just here to talk about my study abroad experience and my love of traveling and the intersection between Blackness and traveling and all that good stuff. If you haven't seen my very first, like, what do they call it? My pilot video or my intro video, whatever, check that out. It'll talk more about what my goal is and, just more information about me. This video is actually going to be about my study abroad experience. In the first video, in my pilot video, or whatever it's called, I talked about how I wanted to have a space to talk about my study abroad experience, and this would be that space. And so I figured what's probably the best video to start out with is what happened to me and study abroad and how big of a part it is in my life, how it was such a developmental, I guess, just huge to my development. So we'll say that. So let's start it. So pretty much back in, I want to say, oof, don't get me to butcher this. I'm not even sure. So the Cheetah Girls movie, the second one, I actually just looked. So if this skips, it's because I paused the recording. So back in 2006, the second Cheetah Girls movie came out. And if you were there, if you watched it, you know that it took place in Barcelona, Spain. And I love the first Cheetah Girls movie. That one was great. But it was number two that had me like, oh, that's going to be me. Like, I'm going to Spain. I don't care what nobody says. And more specifically, I was like, I'm going to Barcelona. It was just something about the movie that made me like, I don't know. And sidebar, this is what's important about representation, like for real, because I've done so much and I always talk about how study abroad was a huge life changer for me and how it really did help shape me into the person who I am today. And it all began with watching a movie on Disney Channel with women of color who were, I want to say they were teenagers in the movie. They were still in high school. I think they were going into their senior year, when the summer before their senior year, when the movie began. And so these were older people who looked like me, who sounded like me, talked like me, walked like me, danced like me, who were on TV. And it was a big ass deal. Yes, I'm going to be cursing on here. I can't help but not. And so for someone like me, who I had gone through a lot in my life at that time, imagine that, like me saying that now, but and just watching these women on TV who look like me doing something as special as traveling the world. So it really did start with Cheetah Girls too. And I still keep up with the actresses. I still know what's going on with them and where they're going and what they're doing. And I literally watch that movie all the time. I watched it earlier this last week, just as a reminder of this is where it all started for me. So yeah, Cheetah Girls too. So that is when I decided that I was going to go to Barcelona. Fast forward to, I was in my first year in college. I went to a small private school and they didn't really have too many options to study abroad. And I almost went to Guatemala instead, almost, because I was like, these are my only options. I had maybe a good 5 different options. It was less than 10, that's for sure. And I was like, and when I say options, I mean of places to study abroad at that school. Such a small school, they really didn't have too many options of where to go. And so I was just about to go to Guatemala and call it a day because I would have been able to go to Spain. The one thing that stopped me was it was a service trip. And I'm just one of those people where I like to volunteer in the way that I want to. And the service trip just wasn't for me. So I ended up transferring schools and I ended up at the school where I studied abroad at. And I remember I had it in my mind, I'm going to study abroad. And so within the first, I want to say couple of weeks of school, at least the first semester of me being there, I was in the study abroad office. I set up an appointment and I talked to my study abroad advisor, who is now like one of my closest friends. And she always watches out for me, always looks over me. And she'll actually make an appearance on my channel. So we'll go over that, how we met and how she helped me get to Spain. But the funny thing about it is when I went to go see her, I had already, I mean, if you know me, you know that I already did my research. So I had already looked up programs and stuff like that. And I was really interested in the Puerto Rico program. The problem is, the issue was I wanted to go home for Christmas. I wanted to be at home for Christmas and Thanksgiving because they're very important to me. Even now, family time like that is important to me. And so I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to do this. It was a year program, but it was just closer than Spain was so that I could go home. And so in our meeting, our first meeting, she heard my reasonings for going to Puerto Rico. And she was like, I mean, I think you might be a good fit for the Spain program. You said you want to learn Spanish because that was my goal. I wanted to go somewhere where I would be able to learn Spanish, to speak Spanish. Because at my last school, I was a business major with a Spanish minor. So when I switched over to my current school, not where I am right now, but where I ended up graduating from, I was like, I'm not taking on the Spanish minor. I just want to go somewhere where I can speak Spanish and learn Spanish. Because at my previous school, the teacher there, she had said it so many times over and over and over again. It is probably your best shot if you really want to learn it to go to a country that speaks Spanish and learn it there. Because, you know, some people can do the classroom thing. Some people can sit and just kind of run through whatever learning they do in the classroom and learn Spanish that way. Some people can, but for some people, it takes them to actually go and be immersed in the country that speaks Spanish to learn Spanish. So that's how it was for me. Turns out, because I had been taking Spanish for my whole life, I had always selected, if I need to take a language class, I'd always select Spanish. And I'm talking about elementary school, middle school, and high school. I had always taken Spanish. And I was always in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 because I just couldn't get it down. I couldn't remain or like retain the information I was learning. So when I hit this opportunity to go abroad, I was like, well, I just go to Puerto Rico. And so when my study abroad advisor, she had told me like, you know, I think you'd be a good fit for this program. You want to speak Spanish. I know it's in Spain. It's not necessarily where you want to go, but it'll be a great experience for you and a great change. And man, I'm not the person that's easily swayed. Like you, when we talk about peer pressure and stuff like that, everybody knows me. I'm usually the person's like, thanks, but no thanks. I think I got it. Whereas in this situation, it was something about it. Matter of fact, I know exactly what it was. She said, because I told her what my issue was, because she asked me, why Puerto Rico? What is it about Puerto Rico that makes you want to go there? And I told her, I really want to go home for Christmas. I want to be at home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Puerto Rico is a quicker flight than Spain. That's a lot longer and more expensive. And she was like, she looked at me, and this is why we're close to this day, because she was very straightforward with me and honest with me about how ridiculous that sounded. And she didn't tell me that at the time, but looking back, I sounded silly. And so pretty much she was like, how many times have you gone home for Christmas? Like how many times in your lifetime have you gone home and been with family for Christmas and Thanksgiving? And she was like, you know, moving forward, how many times will you spend Christmas and Thanksgiving with your family? This is the one time where you have an opportunity to go somewhere else and see what it's like for Christmas and Thanksgiving in another country and experience that and see what that's like, because the likelihood of it happening again is going to take some time and way more money than what it will now. So I think we should think about this. And so I went home and I looked at the program. And so the program I ended up doing was Jaén, Spain. It is in southern Spain in Andalusia. It is about an hour away from Granada. Most people know Granada more than they know Jaén. It's about 3 hours south of Madrid and about 1 hour north of Malaga. So those are the cities that are around it. And it is a province as well as a city. So the city is within the province of Jaén, which is in the region of Andalusia. And it is mostly Spanish speaking. People go there to learn Spanish. If you're going to go there, you're going to see everything in Spanish. The store signs are in Spanish. Taking the bus, you have to speak Spanish. To get around, to buy things, you have to speak Spanish. And so it really challenged me. It put me in a position to get what I wanted so that I could stop complaining about stuff and not having taken Spanish my whole life and still not know, but only know like vocabulary words and things like that. So it was life-changing. So I ended up selecting that program. I really heard what my study abroad advisor had said, and I took it to heart and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I signed up to go to Spain, and that was that. The process, so this is just going to be a brief, well, it's probably not brief, I don't know how long I've been talking, but a brief explanation of this was my experience. I'm not going to go into too much detail about other things because I know that I could do other videos and go into way more detail because I'm a talker, as you all can see. And so at this point, I went through the visa process. I'll do a video about that. Of course, it's not going to go into the depths and details and like what you need to do and giving advice and stuff like that, because you are not supposed to give advice about visas. But I will talk to you about like what I had to do and the experience I went through doing that. I will say now though that it was probably the hardest thing I had to do with the whole process was getting my visa. And it felt like a puzzle. And I love putting together puzzles, but this felt like a puzzle that was never ending and was really, really hard. And so I just had to jump through a lot of hoops. And when you're dealing with another country, especially when the official language is not English and you have to translate everything into that language, it makes things like 10 times more complicated because you don't really know what you're writing. You don't really know if what you translated to is correct. And so it was just a lot. So I went through the visa process, and I'll explain that more in a different video. And then I left. So my program was a year program. So that's 2 semesters. In an academic year is like 8 months. So give or take. So not a full year, like in time, but a year as in an academic year. So I left the evening of August the 31st. And I will talk about that in another video, more specifically what the feeling was like. And because there's so much that goes into leaving the country for the first, well, actually, this was the first time I left the country, which I'll talk about that in more videos and things about my experience traveling before this. But this was the first time I'd gone by myself. And this was the furthest that I'd gone. And this was the first time that I had to rely on other people who were not my family. And so there was a lot that went into that process. So the evening of the 31st of August is the day that I left, and I arrived in Madrid, Spain on September the 1st. And there are a group of us. So with the program I did, this was a program where all of the students in the Cal State system who went with this program flew together, took classes together, traveled together, blah, 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 blah. So this was like a group thing, but you selected to be a part of that program. So they had 2 flight departures, one from San Francisco and one from Los Angeles. I flew out of San Francisco. So that evening, I got dropped off at the airport by my uncle and my cousin, and they, waved goodbye. And I actually went to Spain with my now friend. We're still super close, but I had met her beforehand just to kind of get a sense of like what's going on. We were also at the same university, and so my study abroad advisor that I was explaining about earlier got us together and was like, "Hey, y'all are doing the same program. Get to know each other because you're going to need each other." So we met up at the airport. We actually ended up there at the same time, and we walked through. We met some of the other students who were going with us. And we were all nervous and super excited. I can even feel myself now refeeling the feeling that I felt at the time. And we were just taking pictures and, kind of like getting to know each other really quickly because we were about to get on a flight. It was nighttime, so we were about to go to sleep. So, we did that. And I still have the pictures that we all took in our process of getting over there. And so the flight was 12 hours. That's average from what I can tell since I've been back. Most of my flights have been around between 10 and 12. One time I had a 13-hour flight. So give or take, it was around that time. And again, we landed in Madrid. And just the experience of none of this shit is in English. like, like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, none of this is in English. Like, I don't understand. And like, if you know me, you know I'm very personable and confident. And, you know, even back then, that was like 5 years ago, I was like that then. I was always, you know, in charge and control and a leader because I was good at it. And even I walked off the plane was like, yo, what did I get myself into? And so, and now it's so funny because now I just fly to Madrid and just be there. Like, so anyway, that was a very interesting feeling because for the first time, again, we all didn't know each other from a can of paint. The only person that I knew like that was my friend who I said I hope to have her on. That was it. And so we all waited for each other to get off the plane. So there was about 32 of us that all flew. Because we had a layover. I forgot to mention that. So the two different flights. So there was the flight from Los Angeles and the flight from San Francisco. I did that wrong. The flight from San Francisco and the flight from Los Angeles. We all flew over to Philadelphia. We met in the Philadelphia airport. We all met up with each other and, you know, charged our phones. Some of us had blocks to plug in multiple plugs. So everybody was charging up their computers, charging up their phones, and stuff like that. We're all getting to know each other because we had never met before. I had actually also met, I have another friend from study abroad that we met, and I reached out to her beforehand. She flew out of Los Angeles though. I met her beforehand because I was like, the first thing I did when I got accepted into the program, they created this Facebook page for us. The first thing I did was went to go see how many of the Black people were going. It was only us two. And so I had reached out to her, hey, my name is Monique. I realized there are only 2 Black people going. You know, we gonna be friends pretty much. So I pretty much like not bullied her into being my friend, but I was like, we gonna be friends. So, and we're still friends to this day. So worked out. But anyway, so yeah, that's what happened in Philadelphia. Then from Philadelphia, it was a 12-hour flight. So all together, with that 5 hours from 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 San Francisco to Philadelphia, that was a 5-hour flight, and then it took 12 hours to get from Philadelphia to Madrid. So with that, we all came out of the airplane and we were all standing there. Once we figured, you know, everybody was with us, we walked to what we thought was going to happen was the baggage claim. Because most of us had never gone like that before. Whenever I had traveled out of the country before, it was on a cruise. And so we did the passport part before we got on the boat. So getting out of the airport was very interesting because I had never done it before, and I can't recall if other people had done it before. We'll see. But it was one of those where I was like, oh, where's the baggage claim? So we had to go through customs, and that was my first time ever experiencing that. And it was a little jarring because if you've flown domestically, 1 + 1 is 2 = 3, you're going to baggage claim. So when you have to walk up and now you got to get your passport out, now you got to go through this process. It was 5 years ago, so I don't remember what it was like then, as in like what the process was, but I know what it's like now. And so it's a lot easier now. That's all I remember. I remember it took us a very long time to get out of customs. And we did wait for each other. Like periodically, a few of us would go. After, it would be about 5 or 6 of us would go in a group to baggage claim. And then, you know, just like that. So there's 32 of us. So it was going to take a while for us to get to customs, through customs. So after we got through the border and man, like, and I'm saying like, it's different when going through customs in another country is so, it's just like mind blowing because those people live there. This is their daytime, this is their job. Like they go to this mug every day, 9 to 5 or however long they're supposed to be at the border or whatever. And so these are native Spanish people who like this, their job. And so really thick English accents. Couldn't really understand what they were saying. It was a struggle because again, and actually I didn't say this before, learning a language requires you to train your ear so that even if a Spanish person or someone else whose first language is not English speaks English to you, you would understand what they're saying because you have heard their accent before. And so with this, it was like, I had never heard nobody speak Spanish like that before. I was like, huh? And he starts talking to me. I'm like, what? And he's like, why are you here? Oh, I'm doing a study abroad program. Where are you going? High end Spain. Who are you going with? The rest of these motherfuckers? Like, I was just like, why is he asking me all these questions? I hadn't looked up what happens when you go through customs yet. So that was, but anyway, so we got through customs, went to the baggage claim. I now know what I didn't know then. Don't bring all that shit. I brought everything. It was as I was moving to Spain. At some point I'll show what my Spanish bag was. Like my bag that I checked, biggest suitcase I've ever owned in my life. I still use it. When I move, I use that suitcase to move my clothes. Huge. It was so big. That was the biggest that they were going to allow me to take. So I had that suitcase. I had a carry-on, a backpack, and I feel like that's correct. I think, yes, I had a huge suitcase. I had a carry-on. I had a backpack, and then I had a small bag with me, if that's correct. Something like that. I had like 4 bags. It was crazy. And I wasn't the only one that brought that much stuff, but I definitely was on the lower end of people or the higher end of people who brought that much stuff. Like I was one of the ones that brought hella shit. And so we get through baggage claim and hey, so I know you're probably like, why did that just stop without any warning? After watching this, over and over, I was like, this is a little long. Let me cut this. And so I cut it into 2 parts. So you'll probably see that there are 2 parts to this. Feel free to watch part 1 first. Watch part 1 first, and then you can watch part 2. So yeah, that's why I cut it like that. So thanks for watching.